Euphoria is this sticking to this idealization, which in turn means that it's the effect of a certain estrangement we experience to ourselves. We kind of blow up and we get in contact, we adhere our awareness with an overwhelming imaginary state. If you like, an imaginary realm. I imagine what I am doing. I imagine the results of what I'm practicing. And then ultimately, I get stuck to that idea. And then that's very enslaving. Why? Because the imaginary realm is very difficult, seldom reached, seldom achieved. And it can be very exciting, but it's very difficult to sustain. Hello friends, thank you very much for joining us in this next video of ours. Today we are going to carry on talking about switching up attitudes, because attitudes are about ethics and they're about intentions. And that's what really matters. If you can change, you can transmute an intention into an attitude, and from an attitude to a strategy at once. And then with the strategy, you finally enter real life, concrete life, and start allowing changes to occur. So today we're going to talk a little bit about enthusiasm. We have some hindrances. We have some situations that get in our way when we are trying to develop a healthy or a health behavior. As we talked before, we talked about attitudes, what we mean by attitudes. If you skipped the last video, I would request you to go to our channel and watch it, and you'll have a better understanding of what we are talking about here. So today we're going to talk about the enthusiasm, the experience of getting enthusiastic over something, the thrill, the excitement that involves the whole thing. Because it's very common when we start any kind of health behavior, it is very common that in the very start, the very first day, you feel resistance and you feel difficulty in doing it. But then the second, third time, for a short period, you have enthusiasm. It's a thrill. It's very nice, very compelling. And all masters warn us to be careful about that we have to have motivations, and we have to have decisions, and we have to have attitudes that allow us to go through this period of enthusiasm, when sometimes we might even exaggerate. We might go over the boundary, and then that becomes very difficult, makes it very difficult for us to carry on in our practice. So the first hindrance we're going to deal with is enthusiasm, excitement, thrill, euphoria. Well, euphoria is a term that's not, I know it's not so used in English as it is in Portuguese. But anyway, we would like to remind you that there is a difference between enthusiasm and euphoria, a thrill. Because euphoria would be a feeling of extreme happiness or excessive confidence. This comes up very strongly the first time we hear say of mindfulness and of any health promoting behavior. We can get very, very, very thrilled, and then we start overestimating our capacity, overrating our capacity to fulfill these programs. We think of, because that's something we have as human beings, we think of the present moment. We think the state I am today is what I will be within 3 months, and that might be fallacious. Why? Because I will not be the same under the same set of emotions and feelings, and my life will not be under the same exact circumstances it is today. It won't be in 3 months' time. So we have to be careful with the idea of enthusiasm with euphoria. Enthusiasm on its own merit comes from a word. It comes from the Greek. It comes from enthusiasm. Entheos. It means receiving God within yourself, within oneself. In gardening, it's a kind of you are enguarded about a certain aim, about a certain project you have ahead of you. So there are differences here. Maybe enthusiasm would be more like eudaimonic, a eudaimonic experience. For those of you who have already seen our video about eudaimonia and hedonism, okay, if you like to review it, go to our channel, inscribe and watch our video on these two kinds of well-being, eudaimonic and hedonistic. Enthusiasm might be a little more like a eudaimonic experience, the word says it, and euphoria is a little more like the hedonistic experience, the novelty-seeking experience we have in Cloninger's classification. So, what happens when we get euphoric over our practice or over our program? Usually euphoria must be understood as the result of the blending, of the meeting of idealization with my present awareness. So it means actually I am sticking to an ideal. Usually when I stick to an ideal, the emotion, the affection that will spring from there is euphoria. Of course, you can go into euphoria through drugs. You can do it from a pharmacologic point of view, yes. But we're talking about the human being in natura, in our natural state, in our original state, without the help, without the aid of external agents. You have joy, you have enthusiasm, and you have euphoria. Euphoria then is this sticking to this idealization, which in turn means that it's the effect of a certain estrangement we experience to ourselves. We kind of blow up and we get in contact, we adhere our awareness with an overwhelming imaginary state. If you like, an imaginary realm. I imagine what I am doing. I imagine the results of what I'm practicing. And then ultimately, I get stuck to that idea. And then that's very enslaving. Why? Because the imaginary realm is very difficult, seldom reached, seldom achieved. And it can be very exciting, but it's very difficult to sustain. And when we practice mindfulness and when we're dealing with health habits, then we are after some kind of perseverance. We're after a continuous effect, something that goes adding up with practice, with time, there is a certain accumulation of the experience, not accumulation of emotions, accumulation through repetitiveness. And the word here is repetitiveness. Our repetitiveness is the tool we have, it's the instrument we have to isolate whatever is new or whatever was previously unknown to us in our present mental physical state. So usually euphoria precedes a fall, especially when such an idealization unsticks itself very abruptly. And that can happen because that's about the imaginary realm. It sticks and then it disappears, just like that. Because there is no contact with anything in the real world in the imaginary realm. We just, you can imagine whatever you like. I tell you here, hey guys, let's imagine a polar bear. Everyone thinks of a polar bear. Then I say, look, let's imagine a red macaw. You might not know what a red macaw is, but anyway, imagine a macaw. We'll all imagine a macaw. But then it disappears. Just like that. or doesn't. It all depends. The imaginary realm has that nature of doing whatever it likes, which means it can disappear just like that. So you're stuck to an idealization. You're feeling like you're in heaven, and then suddenly, black, that breaks, and when it breaks, you feel miserable. The imaginary realm, your imagination, might also make you believe or stick to the idea that you're just one piece of junk, you're just a piece of trash. Also can happen, but we're going to talk about that further on later on in our series. So what I would say is, what is extremely important is, whenever you practice any health behavior, and especially mindfulness, be especially aware of excessive enthusiasm, which can sometimes be euphoric, which sometimes might express itself in an excessive devotion. Yeah. There can be an excessive devotion involved. It can be a sign that you're stuck into some idealization, because usually the contact you make with yourself is not very charming in no directions. It's just you. There's nothing else about it. It's just you and yourself. A breathing being. And you go breathing, and you go making contact, and you go carrying on, and you cultivate, you nurture your immobility. And that's how you get around things. There's no need for clothes, special clothes. There is no need for gestures, specific gestures, and there is no specific need for styles. That's all about composing an imaginary, an idealized image of ourselves. So when we're among others who train the same sport modality we do, then we tend to talk about it. We even have the inner slangs. We have the inner vocabulary. People who go to the academy, who frequent a fitness academy, people who play soccer or they go to veggie restaurants, they usually have the same talk. It's different to average, loose, wild talk. And then you have to be very careful with that, because that is not usually the best way to approach our practices. Just do them as if you were just naked and completely devoid of any kind of attribution. The idealization is usually an adjective. You can usually adjectivate, if I may. You adjectivate your idealization in dozens, hundreds, thousands of different ways. So you have no need to trust outside solutions, and idealization is outside you. You are your great novelty to be discovered, to be unraveled, to be deciphered. It's you. It's not anything that comes outside. Nothing that comes from outside is really of great aid for this kind of contact we're going to have. Then, besides mindfulness, then we have the same principle applies to sports, swimming or jogging or just simply walking in the open. Whatever it is, the same principle always counts in the same fashion. Thank you very much for your attention. We'll be seeing ourselves in the next video. Thank you very much, and please don't forget to give us a like, to share, and to comment in our channel, which helps us a lot in the strengthening of our algorithm. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.